This episode of Dungeons and Asians is brought to you by Roll20, your virtual tabletop for playing games online. Whether you need character maps, character sheets, video and voice chat, or even dynamic lighting, Roll20 has you covered. Our story is also powered by Quest, an easy-to-learn tabletop RPG full of seamless narrative and dynamic action that helps your gaming group go on thrilling journeys to fantastical worlds. This show is one part like a story show and another part like a show for us to model how a group of friends can get together, share their cultures, share their experiences, and game together. And I think one thing that needs to be shown more is, we need a break, and we need to be transparent about taking a break, and we need to communicate with each other. And so that's why for this session, we have a whole bunch of new things that are going to be in play. We have a couple things to talk about. We have our usual lines and veils. So we have our lines right now for this game are sexual assault and sexual coercion, violence against children, slavery, racism, body shaming. So those are things that will not be in this game. And veils are going to be intense gore, sex, dental damage, finger and fingernail damage. And those are things that can be in the game, but fade to black, despite things that we like. So for instance, like I, for one, love gore in my games, but that can't be in our game, and that's okay. Now, we have also been using the X card. Now, the X card, we've kind of been going like this on screen because we are recording remotely. We have the option of using the X card in our Zoom chat. I think we have, in previous episodes, encouraged us to just, if we're going to use the X card, put that in the Zoom chat and also do this, so we have multiple ways of knowing. Heck, there's also the option to text me a big X if you want as well. Mm-hmm. Or like put it on your phone and just show it to me like this in a really creepy way, like my airport story.
That you'll never get to hear.
That you'll never get to hear. We also have been using the O card, but our modified O card has always been a heart. So while the X card is meant to just like not in the game, remove that retcon, the O card is like, I'm A-okay with this. So our heart card? Heart of the cards? Nope, TM. Can't do that. That's our O card. Now, Steve, you had this great suggestion on something we could do, and you called it the ZZZ card or the ZZZ card.
Yeah.
And we could keep that name or not. But basically what we're going to do is, times are tough during the pandemic, and while we get to stay at home, that doesn't mean that our energy levels are always going to be the same. And that doesn't mean that life is easy, given that we're at home. In fact, like, life for many people is much harder. I, for one, am now experiencing, a year into the quarantine, I finally hit that point where this is hard for me. Before, it's been very easy for me. And I've been, as you all know, I've been like super diligent about staying inside and only going outside when I need to. For the most part, I only go outside to get groceries, and that's about it. So energy levels are low, and so one of the things you suggested, Steve, was putting 3 Zs in our chat to indicate that our levels are low and that we should try to find a natural narrative stopping point. So that's a new one we're going to do. It's just a way to kind of tell everyone that you're not feeling as good and that we should try to wrap it up without interrupting what's happening. So we're going to use the O card, the X card, the triple Z card, whatever we want to call that. We have our lines and our veils. One thing I want to address before we get into this is, this game is a game for all of us. And I'm really grateful that we're using Quest, because Quest is really story first, dice later. And in this case, based on what happened last session, this is going to be very much a story first, dice never session. And I'm okay with that. Thank you, Roll20, for your sponsorship, though. We really appreciate it, and we are using Roll20 for the event that we do roll dice. But I want to go over our previous wishes and what happened last session. So our wishes for last session are Jade wants to get to know the other party members. Jade's new character, Pema, the Fangxi, is our first magic user in the game. Literally the first magic user that we have ever had in our story. So Jade wants to get to know the other party members. Agatha, I forgot to mention one when we were reviewing these before the session, but Agatha wants, and I wrote this word for word what you said, conversation between Dongfang and Pema, Dongfang and Walid moments, Dongfang and Ning moments. And then in big bold letters, I wrote romance, because you said romance.
So I guess that is what I want.
So Agatha wants romance in the game. And you should listen to our last episode, not sure of the wrap-up, but we talked about romance and intimacy and how you can include those in these games. Amar wants to see Pema be integrated into the party, right? It's Jade is a part of our group, but we also have to make sure that Jade's character is a part of the character group. Steve wants less NPC guidance or interference, so Steve wants all PC stuff. This is going to be episode 4 of Dungeons and Agents.
I feel like Agatha's wish and my wish were the same, but I was just more aggressive about it.
Look, I don't take that as aggressive, because that's just you expressing what you as a player want, and the GM's role is to facilitate that. Also, that makes my life easier because I don't have to do as much, right? Not that I don't want to do stuff, but anyways, Daniel just wants food, and for Ning to deal with loss of soldiers. Not just any loss, the loss of your soldiers because there was a botched operation. Also, we get to level up. And this is something that we haven't talked about in Quest yet. Yeah, so this is something we haven't talked about in Quest yet. So I have my Quest book in front of me. And one of the things that we need to do is level up. We have yet to level up, and we have yet to adapt. Because I think between all of us, I don't know what episode it was, but we kind of said we don't want to level up until it makes sense in the narrative. I don't know. One of you said that, and I think it might have been Agatha, because that's something Agatha would say. Agatha, your story first, right? So yeah. I think that we've hit a point after we do the previously on. We will level up. I think we will level up, and because at the end of each session, you're supposed to choose a new ability, right? And we haven't been doing that just because it hasn't made sense, because we've kind of been in these same locations following these sort of plot points. But now that we've kind of found an end of one, I think it's time to, add a new ability. Now that said, let's set the scene and let's talk about what happened last time on Dungeons and Asians. Previously on Dungeons and Asians, that was episode 10. Episode 10. I'm so proud that we've hit double digits now. On episode 10, our heroes help the village of Liyue deal with a local bandit group known as the Dragon Valley Gang. And the Dragon Valley Gang sought retribution against a teenage warrior named Han, a brash young man from Liyue who had been, taken the law into his own hands, given that, well, Empress Zhou Sha and her forces are nowhere to be seen near this village. We kind of touched on dissatisfaction with the empire, dissatisfaction with its leadership, and dissatisfaction with the hands of the Empress. That is, agents like La Ning and soldiers of the Emerald Banner. Emerald Standard, sorry. Now, our adventurers engaged in a dramatic skirmish at an abandoned temple complex that was being occupied by the Dragon Valley Gang. And the party, alongside their new ally Pema, played by Jade, defeated the bandits and their leaders, Flying Swallow and Lee the Mountain. During the melee, our characters were exposed to, for the first time, the devastating effects of magic. And that leads us to the start of our story today. Now, I'm going to set a scene, and then we're kind of take us out of the narrative and do a quick level up. But our scene will literally pick up right where we left off in episode 10. Ash is falling from the sky. A massive fireball has erupted out of this temple complex. Pema has used magic for the first time, or has used devastating magic for the first time to help her new friends. And things did not go well. Jade rolled low, and when you roll low in Quest, there are consequences. The precious artifacts of this temple, the archives of the temple, were destroyed. And while Waleed and Ning were able to kind of dodge the blast, Dongfeng was unable to dodge the blast. Dongfeng actually rolled a 1 last session. And so what we had happen was Pema was shielded by Dongfeng's massive crustacean frame. And Dongfeng took a massive blast of fire. But at the end of the session, it was revealed that Dongfeng had gained the immunity to fire. They gained immunity to fire from the Golden Chrysanthemum, one of the 4 nobles that they have absorbed in the Southern Woods. And now Dongfeng kind of stands there. Is Dongfeng wearing armor, Agatha?
I think Dongfeng usually would wear something that looks like armor, but or like the very light armor, I think.
Like piecemeal armor, maybe some leather, maybe some plates, pauldrons, things like that.
Yeah, like a thing on your arm, like your forearm.
Like a vambrace, like bracers.
Yeah.
Cool. So, Dongfeng has taken this blast, and literally all the leather, the silk, the cloth that you are wearing has been completely incinerated. And Pema, as you kind of bring yourself out of this like ball you've kind of chucked yourself into, you look down on the ground and you see 2 pieces of singed armor. Dongfeng's vambraces, the metal components red hot from this fireball. And you look up and you see this glowing shrimp naked in front of you. And before this, Steve had asked a question, what does Dongfeng have tiny little shrimp legs on their torso? Who knows? And this is probably a good time to kind of ask, like, what is Dongfeng doing? How is Dongfeng reacting to this?
I want to say that Dongfeng is like, that's my death, and like close their eyes, and then open their eyes again, and then look down. And it's like, oh. Ooh. All right, and then starts like moving their limbs and their tiny little
legs,
torso legs,
that are usually covered under like clothes, and it's like, oh, and then like moving all the different components, and oh, all right.
So does Dongfeng think that they're dead, or they're like everything's on fire? So I don't know if Dongfeng think that they've been sent to like hell, or is Dongfeng just like what's going on? Because Dongfeng's back is to the party.
Yeah, everything's on fire, but Dongfeng feels completely fine. So
Yeah.
It's like a surreal feeling. Yeah, I don't think Dongfeng understands what's going on. It is. I think they might walk forward a little and just like put their hand to the fire to see if anything happens.
So you walk forward towards the temple, and all of your like Ning, Waleed, and Pema are watching this. Like Dongfeng is just like, you see Dongfeng kind of just do like a little like and kind of move. Maybe your exoskeleton kind of like articulates in ways that people haven't seen before, since you normally are wearing clothes.
Yeah.
And Dongfeng, you step forward and you reach out towards the fire, and you actually see this massive temple complex has been completely destroyed. And you go in and you touch the flames, and the flames, as they run over your hands, kind of feel like you've put your hand under like flowing water, warm water. You know when you put your hand under the sink and it's the perfect temperature and the water just runs over your hands and it's soothing? That's what it feels like to you, except the flames are obviously rising. And it feels nice. It's almost comforting to touch the flames. As you touch them, the mark on your hand, remember where you grabbed the chrysanthemum and you had these sort of patterns running up your arm, glow and kind of shimmer and flicker like the flame does.
I feel like Dongfang's experiencing cognitive shrimpiness.
Did you say shrimpiness?
Shrimpiness, yeah. Dissonance. I went for the pun.
You went
and
for
it didn't land, but it's okay.
No,
it's okay. It landed. I just wanted to make sure.
Amar, I laugh.
I laughed.
I studied psychology. I thought that was quite good.
I feel like Amar is just. I feel like that's also something Waleed would say. I laughed, therefore it's funny.
I'm so sorry for interrupting. I had to get that out.
No, thank you.
Dongfeng is going to just crouch down on the ground again, like before when Dongfeng was absorbed the chrysanthemum, and just kind of like clutch their head in their hands, the big hands, not the torso hands.
Yeah.
And this is bad. This is not right. Oh, this is bad. This is bad. And just kind of like have a moment.
Yes, you're kind of having a moment there. Just you crouch down and you almost look like a real ship because you're like curled over and you're just like,
Yes.
Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god.
Waleed tries to walk towards them, but in fact the heat from the temple on fire is too much for anybody else to be able to approach. So he just kind of is just outside the ring of that heat and is just kind of like looking on without being able to do anything.
I think slowly Ning kind of maybe approaches where Waleed is. She also can't approach the flames. And she's covered in soot and dust and whatnot. And though she's unharmed, she's clearly like shaken.
Yeah, Ning, you also feel something at your waist. The vials, Josha's Edge, are actually vibrating on your waist.
I think she just holds them and just like lets that physicality of that just like resonate through her arms and her body as like there's still like a ringing maybe in her ears and, you know, dust in her eyes.
Maybe to center you, to kind of
Exactly. Something, feel something.
So
it's not just fire.
As you hold those vials, you actually see that the water inside them is boiling.
Oh, okay.
It's boiling, and both of them are boiling in your hands. But you feel that like, but the thing is, it doesn't hurt you. Like the water inside is reacting to this magical fire that Pema has created. Pema, what are you doing?
Peima's going to be scuttling back when Dongfeng is doing their limby thing. And Peima's in shock and confused, I think. Yeah, wide-eyed, I think, processing it, partially waiting for Waleed and Ning to do something or to indicate that this is normal or not.
Yeah. So everybody's kind of in shock, looking on at this burning temple that Dongfeng is just kind of like crouched over. You all hear the sound of like heavy footsteps coming, and it's the remaining soldiers that have come with you. Yeah, Commander Ning, are you okay? And they kind of come. We've heard the explosion, and something just knocked all of us back. And you see that your soldiers are like, some of them have like soot all over their face. Many of them are covered in blood and wounds. They kind of come up to you, Ning, and they look and they see this burning temple. They see Dongfeng, and they see the dead bandit leaders, and they recognize your silence, and they kind of understand that, okay, I'm going to shut up and I'm going to step back. But it was enough to draw your attention to what they're doing. And your soldiers, Ning, are regrouping, but you've lost maybe half of your force that came with you. The rest of them are either injured or dead. and many of your soldiers are kind of tending to the wounded or respectfully trying to make stretchers so that they could carry the dead back to the village.
Yeah. Yeah, I had broken them in half. And
Yeah.
the half that went up the mountain, they were outnumbered. Or they didn't have the numbers that I thought they would.
Yeah, so I believe that you left some with the village, right?
Yeah.
And you took half of your force and sent it here. So of your total force, you've lost a quarter of them. And it's a huge blow to morale. The others at the village will not know that this happened. So that's up to you. That said, in this moment, I think it's worth thinking about how we want to level up from our last session and what we think our characters would learn from either the combat or the fallout of the combat. So when you level up in Quest, you basically are able to add a new ability. So I'm going to look at, say, like Dongfeng. Now, Dongfeng has a couple of different roles. Now, you each have what is essentially a class. So we've elected to go the route of, well, since none of the standard D&D classes or even the classes of Quest apply singularly to our characters, we would take a combination of all of them. Right. So, for instance, Waleed has both the fighter, the spy, which are standard to Quest, but we've also made the martial artist. So Waleed has 2 martial arts abilities, and you actually use one. You use your Iron Skin ability to shield yourself from damage last time. So one of the things we could do when we level up our characters in Quest, and Jade could do the same thing, is we first decide which role we think we want to either level up in, or if there's a role that we want to take on based on what happened in the narrative. So if you think that you want to be, if, for instance, Waleed, you want to add another fighter ability, you can. Now, for instance, the fighter has different trees. So there's dueling, there's tactics, there's camaraderie, there's leadership, there's body. So you could pick from any of those. What I would suggest is we think, well, what do we want our characters to be able to do rather than focusing on the specific abilities? And we could find an ability that kind of works with what we want. But I'd like to know very roughly how you think your characters might have improved from a storytelling perspective. And I realize that this is atypical of like a level up conversation, but I want to know in the story, how do you think you improved and what do you think you learned from? And we can basically work that into how mechanically your character levels up.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. I think for Ning.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead. I'll go. I think for Ning, I'm not 100% sure which direction I'm going to take, but I do think that whatever Ning grows here is more internal. And I want her level up to reflect what she views as a failure, like a failed operation.
So,
yeah.
So I have, a suggestion that I have is if Ning goes in the fighter tree. And in the fighter tree, there is in the fighter role, there's a tree called leadership.
Yeah.
And the first ability in leadership is called size up. And I feel like that's where Ning might have failed. So for size up, you evaluate the capabilities of a nearby creature or group of creatures. The guide will give you useful insight into their capabilities, strengths, vulnerability, and or resistances. At a minimum, you will receive an accurate assessment from the guide about whether they would pose a fair fight. The guide will deliver this information to you narratively. For example, they may say, you notice the giant spider flinching at the sight of your torch, rather than telling you it is vulnerable to fire damage. So I feel like the thing that Ning really lacked was there was no reconnaissance. And you sent your forces up through the entrance, and then you went over the wall on the other side. And that was it. So perhaps taking size up from the leadership tree of fighter might benefit Ning. Narratively, also, I think it's cool because when you get another ability, the next one up from size up is plan. So you can spend 3 points, and you can actually give everyone like advantage at the beginning of combat.
Yeah, I think that's really like Jaimu. I mean, that's resonating. I think Ning is going to really investing herself and being a better leader because it has in the past cost lives, and today it really was too close and she knows now that, these have real tragic consequences if she doesn't do her job.
Yeah, and I like how leadership basically starts without an ability that makes you spend AP. It gives you one that is more of a storytelling ability.
Oh,
so
that's
Ning
true.
is so from a level up perspective, Ning now knows that okay, I need to take a step back before I run in, and I might not be as powerful as I think I am, or my force may not be capable of doing the things I want them to do. So now that you have size up, you have the ability to ask me questions about the situation.
Yeah.
What about the rest of you? And I will also say, if you feel like you do not want to level up, or you don't think your character should earn something, by all means, I also welcome that. But Agatha, you were going to say something earlier.
I feel like, so this is a thing that will be interesting to pose to you, because I feel like for Dongfeng, what they gained in this time is a closer relationship with fire.
Yeah.
Having gone through that moment of near death and then surviving it and then realizing this what they thought they had gained from the vermilion bird is more than that. But
there are a couple that are really cool. So you already have one ability from the Invoker role, and that's Inspire, and it's from the Vertex tree.
Yes.
There is a tree in Invoker called Wrath, and the first ability in that one is called Fiery Avenger. You basically, I think narratively, and understanding that you have the ability to resist fire, you could say in Fiery Avenger, you choose a phrase to use for this spell. So I would want you to choose a phrase that is important to Dongfeng, and whenever you utter that phrase, your weapon will ignite in flame, and it does extra damage. So it's kind of an extension of the Vermilion Bird ability that I gave you.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Alternatively, I think it would be really neat narratively. You could also take on the Ward's tree. Now, the Ward's tree, the first ability is called Shield. Now, while you are immune to Shield, it might be interesting to basically say, Shield basically lets you summon a magical shield that appears as an aura of soft light around your body, and it blocks up to 3 hit points worth of damage. Now, I wouldn't be opposed to you using Shield to protect others.
Okay.
Could be that one. I think those are the ones that immediately speak to me. But you kind of want it to be about this understanding of fire, right?
Yeah, I think so.
I gotta think a little bit about that one. Yeah. Oh, okay. So there's a cool one, and this would. I think we could make this a custom one.
Yeah,
and
you
I feel like
want
this.
Me to take the Fiery Avenger.
It's up to you. It's up to you, right? Because this isn't me leveling up your characters. This is you leveling up your characters, and just me basically, since I know the book, offering suggestions. Does Dongfeng want do you want Dongfeng's relationship to fire to be more narrative or mechanical?
I think both.
Okay, yeah. So look, Fiery Avenger is a good one.
And I feel like I'm looking at the Wrath path, and
path, yeah.
And it actually kind of, I can adapt a lot of these things to the kind of the history of Dongfeng or the backstory that we want to create.
Yeah, and Thunderous Word could just be a fiery shockwave.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be thunder or anything like that if you don't want
And
it
it could also tie into Dongfeng's whole thing about being a sky soldier and all that jazz. I could basically adapt all of these, so I think that works.
Okay, sweet. So you would go Wrath, Fiery Avenger, and we can add these to your Notion boards later. We just need to remember which one we grabbed. So if you just note it somewhere. Amar, what about you? What about Waleed? What do you think Waleed would gain from this?
Yeah, I mean, I think sort of the two main trees. There's also the martial arts tree where we've been doing custom abilities, but the other trees are Spy and Fighter. I was thinking of maybe getting a spy thing because of that embarrassing trip up into the trees. Like maybe I can do some infiltration. But then I looked and I saw the other thing I did was I charged. And charge is a fighter ability under tactics. That seems like a pretty solid thing. Where that seems very
Very Waleed.
Yeah. So the charge is you spend 2 AP to activate it. But what you do is, quote, you lock your gaze on a nearby destination, summoning all of your strength to charge toward it. You violently barrel through any foes in your path, knocking them down and dealing 1 damage to each of them. Creatures you knock down are dazed and cannot use special abilities during the next turn. End quote.
That's a Waleed thing. Yes. I'm just going to run through a crowd of people to get to my target and knock everyone down.
Beautiful.
Yeah, that makes total sense. So yeah, you just note that you have charge, and we can just throw that in there. Jade, what about you? Do you think Pema would add anything? So Pema right now is naturalist and wizard.
Yeah, well, at least narratively, Pema is mortified, but also very empowered, I think, from all of this. This is her first brush with this kind of action. I was going to say violence, but I think she's not seeing... I think the part of her mind that's intrigued by what's going on is not viewing it as violence, but viewing it a bit scientifically or analytically. In this, I know that I knew that this would happen theoretically, or something like this theoretically, and now I know it a bit better. If I adjust in this way, then these things wouldn't have gone so poorly, that sort of thing. So,
right.
There's a bit of fascination there as well. And that sounds like a leveling up type thing.
Yeah, so you want something about like curiosity and an understanding of things?
Yeah, there's something like that.
So an odd one could be you could go so underneath the doctor. I feel like the doctor rule might be an interesting one. There is a necromancy path, and the first one you get is the first. And this could be like, you don't see this as violence, but this was something that was like lots of people died here, and so maybe in unleashing this like a shitload of destructive fire magic, you awaken the ability to the first ability here is death sense, so you could see spirits. And I don't know if this awakens... Like, literally, you've desecrated a temple.
Yeah.
By accident.
That makes sense. Yeah.
And so death sense could be one, and that can later on... what I like about necromancy is that narratively you can make it about redemption, because you start with death sense, then you can commune with the dead, you can reanimate, and then reinstate the dead. Which is interesting.
Is there redemption at the end of that?
Well, I mean, depending on how you use it, right?
Yeah.
So you could go that route. There's also perception. That's another very interesting one. And this one's like all about the senses. And the first ability is modulate. So you could basically alter somebody's senses. And I don't know if like the overwhelming sensory experience of smelling burnt corpses and burning everything actually could affect that. And then, of course, there's the examination route, right? The examination route literally gives you examine the dead as your first ability. And that's kind of like that curiosity sort of role.
What do you get out of that?
So examination, the first one, you get examine the dead. You evaluate a corpse within reach. The corpse must be intact enough for you to look at it. It cannot be completely obliterated. After a minute of inspection, you are able to determine the creature's exact cause of death. You are also able to determine the time and date of its death. Basically, it's a medical examiner.
Yeah, that one makes the most sense. I think the necromancy one would be interesting. It's pretty dark. I think it'd be interesting, actually. I don't know. What do you think? Because it's like it's different from what I was saying in regards to how she's feeling at this time, but I also think that it would be interesting narratively to grapple with the consequences in that kind of way, in contrast to this curiosity.
I really like the idea of... Oh, sorry.
No.
Go ahead.
I think it's really cool to think about this whole relationship with like trying to make up for what you did in relation with the dead. I think that's a really fascinating way to think about the necromancy path. Where it's not about using, it's about communicating and respecting, I guess.
Yeah, I like that actually. Freaky. Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, and look, like in Chinese culture, ancestor worship is a really important aspect of Chinese culture. Whereas, like, like we would talk about like necromancy and like D&D proper, it's always like seen as something evil. But like communing with the spirits and trying to seek knowledge and in a certain extent power from the past and from our past selves and our past ancestors is something that is very, very core to Chinese like folk religion and ancient Chinese religion as well. Like that was how you gained social power in the past. And it was literally like throwing banquets for your ancestors.
I was always quite uncomfortable with D&D's forced narrative of the magic around the dead is always about control and control from a very aggressive sense.
Yeah.
And it gave no real room to like understand the dead and to like connect with it in a way that is not in essence violence.
Yeah.
So
like the ability to death sense could be something really cool because maybe Pema has never, dealt with death like this before. I'm sure Pema has lost people in the past, but maybe Pema has never actually killed anything or anyone before. So in the act of using an art that she's kind of trained in secretly, because remember, magic is kind of frowned upon in Liyue because in the past, magic users were used as tools of war. Maybe, Pema has awakened this, ability to kind of you've killed all these people, and then all of a sudden there's like a new layer to your reality, right? And when you try to focus in on those layers, that's when you're actually using your ability. So maybe Pema sees like shimmers everywhere, and maybe these shimmers are spirits. Who knows? Up to you.
Yeah, no, that feels right. Poor Pema. Okay, yeah.
Okay, so we have leveled up all of our characters. That's it. You don't get any new HP. Your HP never goes past 10. That's why I got kind of light quest because it's lethal. But as you accumulate adventure points, you are just packing major heat as you go into encounters. As we've seen with Fireball, it is devastatingly powerful. So what are we doing in the fallout of this? We've leveled up, and in this kind of like freeze time sort of moment, Dongfang is kind of examining the fire and kind of learning more about their sort of interaction with the flames. Waleed is thinking, maybe stealth isn't the way. Maybe I should have gone with the soldiers. Maybe the soldiers would not have died if I had just run straight in there and done my bandit thing. Ning is thinking, maybe I should have planned better. And Pema is now thinking about the relationship with life and death with respect to their magic.
Agatha, were you going to say something?
I was going to say that Dongfang is going to slowly start walking around and probably will actually go find Pema. I don't know if anyone else had any scenes in mind.
I think Ning is going to take this opportunity to really understand that you got to plan ahead. So Ning is going to start assessing the situation, being like, is this fire going to spread? Are we at risk of starting like a forest fire? Will the fire eventually reach and cause more damage? And react accordingly. So
the fire looks as though it can spread. Parts of the forest are ablaze, but you maybe, if you act quick enough, you will be able to manage this fire.
Okay. Ning, I think because Waleed is there, Ning kind of holds Waleed's shoulder and says, we can't. We can save the building if we act right now. We can put it out, I think. Should we?
Willie turns to look at Ning, having just kind of followed Dongfeng with his eyes as they walked away from the fire that was too hot for us to even get close to unharmed, and says, "Yeah, whatever you say." And there are soldiers there now, right?
There are soldiers there. They're dealing with, the ones that they've lost.
Right.
They're dead comrades, but they'll listen. They'll listen. That's what they're here for. That's what they're trained to do.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, he says that. He says, whatever you say, but instead starts walking towards Dongfeng, and is trying to sort of figure out to be like, are you how to say are you okay, but can't quite get the words out.
What does that look like?
Yeah, Dongfeng is after a while is like, okay, I've had my moment of panic, and like slowly stands up, like unfurling their long spindly legs and and starts walking, turns around and starts walking back, and is looking at actually the that also like just glancing at the corpses of whoever is there, and then checking if there's any piece of clothing that they can wear. And they're not too worried about it, but it's just like a habit, I think, that they would be like, oh yes, I should be dressed. And
human conceptions of modesty do not apply to shrimp creatures.
Yeah, so they're not like, but it's like a coping mechanism, basically. And then they see Pema, who was right behind Dongfeng, right? Mm-hmm. And Pema, what are you doing?
Oh, I scuttled away. I shifted backwards to make space for your exploring what's happening to your body. And I think just like looking around at the carnage. I think I'm still on the ground.
Kind of scooting back on your butt.
Yeah.
You're just like, oh my god.
Yeah. Like I have a hand on my mouth, probably, just trying to digest it. My eyes are probably very large.
Yeah.
And I think not looking at anything in particular, and everything at the same time. So maybe I don't notice you.
Yeah, I'll walk up to you slowly, and if it seems like you are startled by me approaching, then I'll stop. And then I will crouch down so that I look smaller and say, Say, do you know where I can find new robes?
I snap out of it immediately, and I'm like, oh my god, are you okay? How did... And I'm, I don't know, assessing your body. I don't know that I can make any particular assessments. I'm not particularly familiar with shrimp folk, but I can tell that you don't seem particularly injured, and I'm confused about that.
Yes, I think I'm all right, actually. But I am not wearing anything.
Try to process that, I think, because that's like not the most pressing thing to me. But I'm like, yes, of course. And I look around. Is there anything that we can improvise around us?
I mean, if they were encamped here, they must have like cloaks and things.
Yeah,
just
they have cloaks and
right?
things. Just you're gonna have to search around. Remember, everything got destroyed in this fire.
I give you my top layer of a rope, and I say, take this for now. Let's look around, and I go and search.
So you have this robe, and maybe the sleeves are too short on you.
Yeah. It looks really funny, but it doesn't fit tight like on the chest because Dongfang is a really skinny shrimp. Question mark. Just very tall. So then it falls loose here, but it's just very short.
Very short here. So it's comfortable
gesture.
then. It's comfortable. Maybe it wears like almost like a short sleeve shirt on Dongfang.
Yeah.
But you managed to put together an outfit from Pema's overcoat to some of the stuff from the bandits. Like you're able to maybe take a cloak and wrap it around your waist or something, or anything like that.
So Pema, right? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry, you can finish this. It's just Waleed will respond to that or react to that stuff, but whenever you have a moment.
Okay. So Pema, right?
I'm so sorry. I just shake my head.
You turned the tides, basically.
I've never done anything like this before, and there's just so much destruction. I don't know. And I think I'm still just like at a loss for words, and simultaneously like more frantically looking around for clothes for Dongfang. Not sure like where to put this confused energy I have around this.
Hey.
Yeah.
Sit down. Sit here.
I sit near Dongfang. I take a deep breath. You're okay though?
I am okay. Look at me. Look at my giant eyes.
I do, and I laugh a little bit when you say that.
Can you see your reflection in my eyes?
Yeah. And I see like soot across my face, and my hair a bit disheveled.
Good. You're still you, alright? First kill is always hard.
Oh man, I start sobbing, I think, and I try to breathe through it. I think I fight the urge to hug Dongfang. I don't know how comfortable they are, not having any clothes on, but.
If it looks like you want to hug, then I will reach out and hug you.
Cool. And I sink into Dongfang's embrace for a moment. I also I think I don't like fully collapse. I think I just want to like exhale a bit, and I'm grateful to be seen, probably, but I don't but I want to be mindful, but I'm mindful, I suppose, of the devastation to everyone else, and just kind of want to probably stay stabilized, like for my own sake, and not like just fully break down, but and I nod, and I'm like, yeah.
And as you kind of hold Dongfang, as you kind of had this hug, you can actually feel Dongfang's like heartbeat. Every time Dongfang's heart beats, there's this like subtle wave of warmth that radiates through Dongfang's body. So it's very comforting. Amar, you were going to say something earlier. What is Waleed doing?
So for some background, Waleed is somebody who's kind of bounced around a lot and never really feels like he belongs anywhere, but he had finally started to feel like there were people who cared about him, Dongfang primarily, when they helped save him in the with the skydrop, the growing jade stuff. So Waleed was totally distraught at the prospect of losing Dongfang, sort of amongst his sort of only friends, and So he had been sort of stumbling, dazed, toward following behind Dongfeng as they kind of walked away from the temple. But upon hearing somebody else ask the question that he really wanted to ask, are you okay, and like those kind of questions, finding out that Dongfeng is okay, the mask comes down again and responds with sort of the wry kind of, Dongfeng, I really gotta get me one of those things. Where's that next one? The Oasis Bamboo in the Shimmering Badlands. Oh, we gotta go there right away. It sort of says that last part back to Ning behind. In this, like, a little too forced joviality, right? Like, the forest is burning around him. A bunch of people just died, right? But he's sort of still doing this thing. So,
it's like I like that power. I gotta get me one of those.
Exactly.
But also, like, in your mind, like, oh, holy shit, what just happened?
yeah. Like, oh my god, I'm so glad you're okay. But being unable to say that. So.
Yeah, Dongfeng will, in the middle of like kind of, I think probably releasing Pema, because Pema seems to want to like be like, I'm okay, I'm centered now. Then turns around, like, just to look at Dongfeng over their shoulder and say, instead of talking about that, why don't you give me some clothes that fit me?
Waleed laughs a little too hard again, more just from the relief of hearing a voice that he thought maybe he wouldn't hear again for a long time, forever, and starts like poking around to see if there's like any, I don't know, tattered cloaks that are maybe still left or something. Not taking anything off a body if possible, but is going to help with the search effort.
Yeah, you search through their barracks, and you find some things that managed to survive the blast. Everything is like beds have been overturned, and maybe you pull together some like blankets and bed sheets or whatever, and you come with this huge bundle of cloth. So you're definitely able to get some stuff together for Dongfeng.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And where's Ning? Oh, sorry. I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. And then sort of like kind of starts trying to help Dongfeng put some of the clothes on in a sort of protective kind of fashion, where Dongfeng is like, no, I can handle this.
Yeah.
Probably.
It's like
you tell me how you react.
Yeah, Dongfeng is kind of like, oh, like, why are you? and like moves back, and then moves back again. But then, like, is I feel like it would be kind of obvious, right? That Waleed is like maybe in something like the shaking of the hands or something like that.
Oh yeah, that's brilliant. Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah, he's like trying to kind of help, and he's being a little nervous and like a little all over the place about it, but then also his hands are shaking, and there's clearly a lot of like anxious energy there.
Yeah, okay. So then Dongfeng is like I'm not really comfortable with this, but I'll just stay still. That kind of like yeah, I think I am very covered now.
Oh yeah, perfect. He actually he puts on like 3 or 4 layers as if it's armor or something.
You're just completely wrapped up with cloth now.
Yeah, I look a little bit like a mummy. Thank you, Waleed.
Yeah, you're good. And he sort of takes 2 steps back with his arms up and says, yeah, good work.
Yeah.
What about Ning?
I think if the camera was kind of like on this trio here, just like working through it and like figuring out like how to center ourselves for the next steps, the camera might zoom out and Ning was walking away from the 3 of them, and she might have been looking over her shoulder and maybe even smiling at it all. But when she turns back to the front of her, the mask is back on. She's cold. She goes to her first lieutenant and she puts a hand on his shoulder and says, "Tell everyone to focus on the injured. Bring them back to Lewis. If we can save their lives, the past can burn."
Yes, Commander. And they go off and they get everybody like forget about the temple, forget about the trees. Commander says that we gotta take care of the injured first.
Tell them the fire won't spread. I've made sure of it.
Don't worry about the fire. Commander Ning will put out the flames. And they kind of look, and in this moment you see the soldiers who are kind of like, they might have been questioning your judgment when you said like focus on the fires. and they kind of look and relieved. And they eagerly just like put down what they're doing. At this point, I think they're like trying to shovel dirt onto the fires to smother the flames.
Right.
Some of them are emptying their bottles of water all over the flames.
Yeah.
They are not equipped to fight fires. And they immediately just drop what they're doing. Like, some of them just like throw down their shovels and like water bottles onto the ground, go grab their comrades, and immediately start sprinting back to the village with them. Others who are, dealing with the dead are they're not rushing, but they're grateful that they don't have to think about another task. And they start wrapping up the bodies in like blankets and things in their own cloaks.
And Ning looks back to the three of her friends, and she smiles again before looking back at her troops. She puts the mask back on and continues giving them guidance to make sure that this all gets done in a timely manner.
Yeah, and so they're gonna transport the dead back to Liyue, where they will figure out what they want to do. Do they want to send the bodies back to the capital for like a military funeral, or are they going to do it there? But that said, your soldiers are going to head back to the village. What are the rest of you going to do collectively as a group? As you send off the soldiers, as the rest of them leave with the dead, it's just the four of you left in this village, this temple complex that is slowly that the flames have begun to die down, and now there's just embers. This is a permanent mark on the landscape now.
I think once things seem to be more under control and everyone seems to have found a way to funnel the energy, or the feelings that came from this battle, Dongfeng is going to go and just like sit somewhere by themselves, because I think a huge part of what they were doing was they were like, oh, okay, like people need something for a moment. But also I thought I was dead, so I need to sit down in like a charred corner and just kind of like
think about your mortality or
and like
immortality.
Look at their hand with the chrysanthemum.
Yeah. And it continues to glow.
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know if Ning has any words for this. I think Ning stays silent. Like maybe closer to the group and stuff, but I don't think Ning has any words. Like, is also like silent and maybe separated from everyone.
Okay, so if Ning is also walking away, because I do want, I think, I'm gonna say that this is after a bit of just sitting by themselves. But when Dongfeng sees Ning, they'll get up and then walk basically beside Ning. But
you're not hurt, right?
No, boss. I'm good.
Good. We should stamp out the embers, then head back to the village and let them know that the bandits won't be a problem anymore.
Dongfeng will like look at Ning for a second. And how does Ning look?
She's cracking at the edges. Everything, so she's doing her like boss demeanor, boss girl, but it's quickly breaking away. She can't really hold on to it too much longer.
Yeah, Dongfeng will put out a hand and just gently on Ning's shoulder.
I think there's a moment of like, not shock, but surprise at that. I don't think they have those interactions often, maybe at all.
Oh.
And rather than, she looks as if she will pull away, and then puts a hand on Dongfeng's appendage, and she squeezes so hard just like bordering pain. She just needs to let out that energy.
Yeah, it doesn't make a huge difference to Dongfang, to be honest, because Dongfang is, of course, covered with exoskeleton. But Dongfang, understands. When Ning is able to, take a deep breath again and, release Dongfang's hand, we'll say. So, boss, do you think that all of us are going to have flowers meld into our bodies? Or plants?
Honestly, I don't know. And it's possible, but it's a terrifying thought. I mean, it's power. We see it in you. But you're changing. And I see it. And I'm not scared, but maybe I am scared.
Problem is that I don't know what plants want. Everything has a price, boss. You know that. And I don't know what I have to give in exchange for this.
Well, if it asks for something and you can't provide, let me know. I would be happy to help.
Boss, it's not a request, I'm just saying. Plus,
I know,
you're gonna get a plant too. It's gonna ask something of you. Maybe.
Waleed breaks in and says, "Can't wait to get mine. I wonder what power I'm gonna get. Maybe I can fly."
I think you should. I hope you get a wind one. I think that'll be useful.
Yeah.
I hope you don't, because it'll just mean I can't keep an eye on you. You'll just talk that much louder, and and Ning kind of looks away.
While they're sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say when you said wind thing, I was like, oh man, at like the meta level, I was like wind, and then I immediately thought of Hanuman, and I was like, oh, Daesh. I was like, oh, that'd be so cool.
Yeah.
We're still inside the temple area, right?
Yeah, you're still within the grounds of
Okay.
the temple.
Okay. While they're catching up, I want to see if I can cultivate the last of my energy to cast a freeze to the flames that are remaining. I guess it's every flame that was there before, but
Yeah. So you want to basically use your naturalist ability, freeze, to basically end everything here in terms of stop the burning.
yeah.
What does that look like?
I am. Let's see. I'm going to take a quick scan around to see if there's anybody that's going to be impacted by what I do. I think I'm going to really try to do this as low level as I can. Try to control this.
Okay.
And I am just going to I think start swinging my body in the direction horizontal to the direction. And my arms will be flying loose. And just gently create this cold wind that comes in from several directions. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's there's this cold, this breeze. It's unnatural. This breeze comes from multiple directions, and at first, you don't think it actually does anything. You feel uncertain, like you've said. You kind of feel uncertain about your powers, and then you start to hear the sound of things falling to the ground. You hear the sound of shattering ice, and you look around and the remaining leaves that are on these trees begin to freeze and fall from the trees and shattering into, tiny little pieces of ice as this cold wind rolls in over the temple complex, extinguishing all of the flames and encasing everything there in a very thin layer of ice.
Okay, then I turn back to the party and I say, let's go back to the village. They'll take care of us there. And
now, is this the first time that Pema's ever used this ability?
I think I used it when I
mean, narratively.
Well, yeah, I mean, to the scale. Yes, in some ways, I want to say.
Yeah. Cool. Because you used the burn ability on Waleed to help Waleed before when Waleed was having that episode.
Yeah.
So you use this ability at a large scale, and you've extinguished all the flames and have covered it with like a thin layer of ice that will melt in the daylight.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to say that there's something that I learned from the magic that I had cast this last little while that I applied in doing this.
Yeah. So you centered yourself and everything. So even though Freeze asks you to roll, I don't think it's necessary to roll in this case, since you've deliberately kind of like focused your energy to doing this. So is everyone heading back to the village now? Or is there anything else you folks want to do after Pema has basically covered the village in ice?
I think Ning might comment that, Pema, you are incredibly powerful. But it's not said with like fear or even shock. It's almost like just observing the color of a flower. Like, you are incredibly powerful.
I immediately respond with, "Are you okay?"
I'm more or less unscathed. Thank you. You are powerful.
I'm so sorry.
For what?
For the way that I contributed to the destruction of all of that.
But we're here. We killed the bandits. It won't be a problem.
I could have killed Dongfang. No, I know. I'm so sorry.
Good. It's good that you recognize that. Keep that in mind. You're powerful.
I nod and I stay silent for the rest of the walk, I think.
Yeah. So when you head back to the village, see, like, Han and them have constructed these like really bad looking palisades around it, and it's just like the sticks aren't even that sharp. It's a whole bunch of like tweens and teenagers trying to reinforce their village. And Han's there and he sees you, Pema, and he's like, "Look what I did, Pema. Hey, bandits ain't coming over here."
Oh.
And the village elders, Wo-san and everyone else, are tending to the soldiers. They have actually like laid out the bodies, all wrapped up in like and covered, laid out the bodies in neat rows. The remaining soldiers who you left at the village to protect them, the real protectors of the village at this time, are kind of looking down at their friends. Some of them are crying. They're a little shook. And then they see the four of you walk in. Dongfang like kind of bundled up in blankets and discarded clothing. They kind of look. You hear people kind of whispering. They heard about the blast. They heard about the destruction, and you can hear them saying, "This is what happens when magic's involved, and this is what happens when the Empire gets involved."
I asked.
This is what happens when This is what happens when the Empress sends her hands to do her bidding.
I asked somebody to get clothes for Dongfang.
Yeah, they're like, yeah, for you, Pema, anything. And they will go and they will begin making clothes for Dongfang. They will have to be custom. And actually, I think the person who goes is kind of like sizes up Dongfang and is like quickly runs and like measures up Dongfang like in an instant. Like maybe like 4 people all measure Dongfang, and then they'll just like run away real quick.
Yeah, at this point, Dongfang is like, yeah, everyone just touch this, touch my body. That's fine.
They're just like measuring you up, and they're going to go make you some new clothes. Yeah, very anime. They're gonna make you some new clothes. I want to put the spotlight on you, Steve. As Ning walks in, Ning, you are unscathed, right? You weren't hurt, yet your force, the Emerald Banner, took some your forces took like a huge hit. The Emerald Standard, took a major hit. This is the first time, I think. I don't know if this is the first time that Ning's ever lost soldiers in conflict. Because up until
her
this
biggest
time,
losses are just distributing forces.
Yeah.
But here's where she actually has forces she can never recoup.
Yeah. So, what is Ning doing? Like, what is Ning going to say? They kind of look. They're looking at you, expecting you to say something.
So Ning says, our number one priority is to see to our injured, give them everything they need, so that they wake up tomorrow. Tomorrow at dawn, I'll be meeting with my mercenaries to plan. Following that, we'd like to meet with the following lieutenants. And she calls out the lieutenants, the names of whom seem pretty happy with this town. A lot of her lieutenants actually really enjoyed just being part of like a rural country and not really being on all the time. And she lists out the ones that she has noticed. And then she says, following that, all other lieutenants and sergeants will meet with me in my tent.
All right, so you're going to gather your leadership.
Yep. But that'll happen tomorrow.
So for the remainder of the day, so one of them will ask, like, Commander, so we'll take care of the wounded. Is there anything else you'd like us to do? Shall we stand guard? Are we expecting any retaliation?
We've neutralized both Flank Swallow and the Mountain. I don't anticipate any retaliation. Keep minimal watch, just in case.
Okay. And so they go off, and your own commanders begin, issuing orders, positioning soldiers in like entrances. But for the most part, they are focusing on collaborating with the local healers on helping your wounded and preparing rites for the dead. Before we kind of go into before time progresses, I want to know, Dongfang, Walid, Pema, what are you folks doing?
I'm going to be tending to the dead as well. I'm going to be helping those efforts.
Nice.
And since you're tending to the dead, as you kind of look over the bodies, they're all wrapped in their cloaks, their colors. They're wearing the Xia regalia, right? As you look over all the bodies that are laid out in these perfect rows, you notice, and I don't know if your character, if Pema comprehends it yet, but you notice like a shimmering over each one of them. And I want this out of game to represent Pema's new awakened ability to understand the dead.
It's subtle, I imagine.
It's very subtle, almost like a mirage over every body.
Yeah, I definitely don't think she comprehends this. I think everything feels a bit surreal. There's a lot of strange commotion in the village that she's not used to. So she just keeps going.
Yeah. Okay. So what about Walid and Dongfang? Dongfang got measured up, but Dongfang has time now, and so does Walid.
I want to know what Walid is doing.
I think Waleed will continue his, like, I don't care act and be like, let's get some food. Killing bandits really makes me hungry. And
Killing bandits really makes me hungry. And then the soldiers kind of go. The soldiers look a little upset, but the youths of the town, the local militia, are like, "Whoa, Waleed, how many bandits did you kill?" They eat it up. They
Right.
eat it up, and they kind of give Waleed that attention that Waleed received from the soldiers.
Yeah.
And they kind of go off with, "Waleed, we'll take you out for some food. We'll go get hot pot." Oh, hot
yeah.
I know, right? And I don't know how Waleed reacts to that kind of attention, because it's attention that Waleed used to love before.
Yeah, so again, like, he's just pretending as if he doesn't care that, his sort of friend or one of the few people he really cares about almost died there. So he's going to pretend as if he loves it. He's going to start regaling them with a tale of heroism, ignoring some of the missteps, and instead being like, yeah, so I, from the tree, fired into the bandits. I didn't totally trip.
How I leapt over a stone wall in a single bound, landing atop a tree.
Exactly. So he's going to start, like, just, telling the story that way. A little exaggerated.
What about Dongfang? Agatha, you were going to say something.
I think Dongfang sees Waleed doing this thing that Waleed has done before, from the incident at the hot spring, and it's like, but I think what Dongfang would do is wait until later, because ain't nobody gonna stop someone from having hot pot. That's not right. So so Dongfang will, like, maybe actually join in.
Yeah,
like,
come along.
Yeah, like, I almost died. I need food too.
Whoa, you almost died. You fought the bandits too, alongside Commander Waleed? They start calling you Commander Waleed as well.
Yeah,
Are the blankets your armor now?
I hope not. Someone is making some new stuff for me. It was an intense battle, and I lost my clothes.
Oh, whoa. Was that from the dragon that Waleed mentioned? Waleed said that he killed a dragon.
Yeah. The dragon. It's really
Waleed mentioned there was
big.
tons of fire. Sounds like a dragon.
Oh yeah, there was definitely a lot of fire. Yeah.
That's crazy. Maybe when this is all over, we'll go check out the ruins. I've heard dragons are kind of nice, so I'm curious as to why they would attack, but Waleed, you're the expert. And they kind of invite you over for some more hot pot, and they got, like, this big spicy hot pot going. Do you like hot food, Dongfang?
Yes. I'm not good
so-
at eating it, but I really like it. So don't.
And so
I turn red when I eat it, as in Dongfang, but also me in real life.
So spicy affects Dongfang more than fire.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Yes.
Okay, so canonically that means Dongfang, even though Dongfang is resistant to fire, Dongfang is not resistant to spice.
No,
Okay.
not at all.
This is an important detail for all of us in the audience.
true.
So you folks, enjoy, a nice spicy meal, to kind of lift the spirits. Ning is kind of coordinating things, getting ready for the next day, and Pema is kind of very solemnly looking over the dead and helping them, maybe saying prayers, or maybe just contemplating what you could have done. And the rest of the day passes without consequence.
I would love for a moment after the hot pot to kind of, like, look over at Waleed. And what is Waleed like after we're done eating hot pot?
quite full. If this was an anime, then like he's got an enormous belly that won't be there in the next scene.
Yes.
And I think that the teeth kind of like disappear. They'd be like, "Meal's done. Waleed will give you some time. I can't believe you ate that much, Waleed." And they just and they just like, "You're an epic fighter and an epic eater." And then they kind of disperse. And so it's just kind of left with like all of the dishes, Waleed and Dongfang.
And looking, like he's looking a little like he's dozing off a little bit, but.
Yeah, Nova will kind of like elbow Waleed.
He'll snap right awake. The dozing off may have been a bit of a cover.
You okay?
Yeah, of course.
Sometimes when you're upset, your voice goes higher.
Does it?
Oh yeah, a little bit.
You okay?
I don't like this. The new clothes are fine.
Yeah, and I think by this time as well, you would have received some new clothes. They would have brought it to you in the middle of the meal, and having like hastily sewn it together. It fits very well.
Oh, I'm sure it does. You ever had a moment where you thought you were going to die?
Oh yeah, lots.
So, takes a bit, right?
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I eat near-death experiences for breakfast. It's fine.
You don't look fine.
I look great?
You look splendid, and you look... You're shaking.
Waleed reaches for like a cup to sort of try to stay. I guess tea, is that what we were having with us? To like sort of stabilize his the shaking a little bit, kind of instinctively, trying not to show his vulnerability. I'm fine.
Right. So am I. And Donva will like look at Waleed in that like.
And I'm glad you're okay.
And I think what we should do there is, and I think what happens is like as I think we're okay, is the scene would kind of fade as you're sitting there. Maybe that the moon is rising, and you sit there over this like this empty hot pot, all of these dishes, and you're both like, yeah, I'm okay. You okay? And you're both not okay. A lot of you are playing games while staying socially distant and looking for the best way to do it. Whether you need maps, character sheets, video and voice chat, or even dynamic lighting, Roll20 has you covered. With Roll20, you can build games with all different types of features. Whether you're playing Fiasco and need to keep track of your cards, a dungeon crawler like D&D with lighting effects, or if you want to create quick rolls for all of your character's spells, Roll20 takes care of all of that for you. Join over 5 million players and see for yourself at roll20.net. It's free to set up an account, build a game, and play, so why not try it out? Now, back to Dungeons & Asians. The night is quiet, and you hear the sounds of birds and forest animals. But the attack that the villagers might expect, or that the soldiers might fear, the retaliation, never comes. And, in the morning, the village is, comes back to life. You could hear the local teen militia kind of going out and about, patrolling, checking the perimeter, checking their palisades. The tailors come out and check the outfit that they made for Dongfang, and your soldiers gather. The upper management of Ning's unit.
Before we meet like those controllers, Ning has asked to meet with her mercenaries first thing in the morning. So that'll be Dongfang, Walid, and Pema in her tent.
I want to know how Pema reacts to this, being considered a mercenary now.
Confused, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't have any particular. I don't know. I don't have super strong understanding of the implications of that. So I think
because it's almost like Ning's like, okay, let's go mercenaries, and is it almost like Dongfang and Walid are like, okay, let's go, and then Pema's like, am I supposed to go? Is that what you're describing, Jade?
yes, kind of like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But then I go anyway because it just seems I seem to be within the addressed. So
Yeah, and if you hesitate, I'm pretty sure that Dongfang would turn around and be like, "Well, keep up."
I will also say that somebody needs to go wake Walid up because he doesn't wake up that early.
I was going to mention that, yeah. I think Ning picked Dawn, knowing that Walid just wouldn't accept it, and it'd be like kind of like a little jab there.
I'm in charge.
Fair enough.
I'm
Yeah.
the commander.
And I guess you send somebody to wake me up there. Yeah.
Specifically, like a contingent of people to be like, we have to get Walid, we might have to carry him.
Do you think they carry Walid? Amar, what do you want? Is Walid like? Do they rouse Walid from his sleep and just like, Walid, you got that meeting?
Yeah, so he the first 2 times he'll turn around and then the shot cuts and it's just me in my sleeping bag in front of you. They just brought.
So you bring your bedroll and everything into the
these
meeting.
They just pick me up and like just.
Oh, they pick you up.
Great.
Put you on a wagon and wheel you over, and
Yeah, I'm quite heavy.
Commander Walid. They announce you've joined the meeting. Commander Walid attending the meeting, and then they leave you in your sleeping bag there.
Yeah.
They've actually the town has given you the local town hall.
Oh.
It's a do you folks know what a skywell is?
No.
I think I do. I think you might have described it for a building in Jingda.
Yeah, so it's a common architectural
Oh,
feature
that
in
thing.
China.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's basically it's your building. It's a courtyard inside a building, literally a skywell. So they give you the town hall, which is this skywell inside the biggest building.
Yeah.
Wo-sun's residence. So they give you have full privacy here. They drop off Walid, and the soldiers kind of they kind of bow and then they leave.
So Ning has put out tea for everyone, and she's not dressed in her armor, and her armor is actually put on its stand. And you might have seen her as you walk in, like readjusting it or making sure that tea is ready for everyone. But this is maybe one of the few moments where she's called people to come to her without wearing her full set of armor. And when everyone arrives, she says, I feel like I can trust you, and I need you to hear this. And if you have thoughts or if I'm making a mistake, then I trust you to just tell me. That's why I want to meet you first. So I'm just going to keep talking. I'm going to keep talking, and I want you to listen to me. I'm going to dissolve the army. I'm going to send everyone home. I can't keep sending them to their death. It's not fair to them. I lost so many people today, yesterday, last night. And I don't want to make that mistake ever again. And I think this is the best way to make sure that never happens. Ever. But I want you all to stay with me. We still have to go to the Shimmering Badlands. We have to finish the mission. But I can't keep bringing these people with me against their will.
Boss, did you say dissolve the army? As in, they won't be a soldier anymore?
I'm gonna give some of them the option. I think there's some people here that want to stay, in a way. And I think they would find a life here that would make them happy. And with their gear, they could actually keep these people safe from bandits. Help them make sure they feel safe. Maybe they can build some trust again with the Empress and her goals. But I don't think I can control them like that. And I hope that if I just give them that trust, that freedom, they'll help these people. And they'll keep them safe. And Dongfang, tell me this is a bad idea. If it's a bad idea, just tell me.
This part of it seems alright, boss. But the other part is a bad idea.
Just get rid of the rest of them? Yeah, maybe.
No, you should, this is what they get paid. 5 silvers a month for.
The other thing is, when we came here, we couldn't hide their presence. It was very clear that we were coming from Chang'e, that they were afraid of us. And it caused a lot of problems. And maybe that's what set off the bandits. Maybe the bandits saw it and they just retaliated. Maybe they thought they could nip something in the bud. I don't know, but just bringing in that many people with that standard, we don't even know the customs out here.
The bandits were a problem from long ago. I think Pema's feeling a profound amount of respect for Ning. And how Ning feels about this whole situation, and didn't expect it from her. Or these visitors.
Boss, are you ashamed of representing the Empress?
No. Never. But that pride that I have, I'm tired of watching people die for it. No more of it.
I see.
And that's why I brought you 3 here, because I'm asking you to join me. Alone. Just us. Where we might die.
And
so
me?
why are you asking us? Why are you willing to send us to our deaths and not willing to send the soldiers to their deaths?
I don't know.
Because we're PCs.
Because you're PCs.
Sorry. I'm sorry. I couldn't resist.
Because you're the only people I feel like I can even ask that to. I can command them to follow me, and they will. But I can't actually ask them. But I can ask you.
I'd be honored to, you say.
And there's like a moment where like Ning feels like she's unwinding. Like a coiled spring, it's like beginning to release a little bit.
Donghua is gonna look at Waleed.
Yeah, I think Waleed cracks his smile and says, "Yeah, this whole hanging out with the cops has been bad for my reputation. So any of them that maybe want to join us for the rest of this adventure, they would have to stop wearing the garb and the uniforms."
Yeah. Dongfeng, this is a mistake.
Yeah, it is. Boss, you're a commander. This is your duty, is to have people's lives in your hands and to point them where the Empress wants you to go. But of course, I don't serve the Empress, so it's up to you. I don't think it's a good idea, but they're your people, so...
I can't keep burying them. Dongfeng, what would you do if you were me?
I would try not to.
Just tell me what to do.
I would keep them. Unless you can find someone suitable to also take command of them when you send them back. Because who will they listen to?
I have some names in mind, but they've never commanded the entire company at once. It is dangerous.
I understand,
I don't know.
boss, that this is very heavy of a burden on your shoulders. But if you want, you can ask us to help you. I don't think getting rid of them is going to help the situation.
You would you be willing to help me like that? I always assumed that you weren't interested in rationing out food and supplying water.
I'm not, but I'll do it.
Okay. Waleed, Pema, you know these areas. Waleed, you know what it's like when we leave at the capital and what the rest of the world looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I just... Can I give you that responsibility?
Uh,
We share it, of course, but
Of
I think
course.
of all of us, Pema would be the most capable.
Of. She looks slightly confused.
Of telling people what to do, taking care of people.
She's just a bit overwhelmed by all of this. She shakes her head and is like, You don't even know what I'm capable of. I don't even know what I'm capable of.
I know that. But I don't know what I'm capable of either. And I trust that you're afraid of it, just like I am. So I trust you.
Sounds good, boss.
All right. From here on out, you're my sergeants. Congratulations on your promotion. Dismissed. And thank you.
You got it,
Oh,
boss.
fuck.
Yeah. I'd love to order around some stuffy soldiers. That's fantastic. A bandit who led an army. And he sort of stares off wistfully at the stories that will be told.
I imagine if, like, Waleed stares off, it's just like Waleed's imagining what, like, the propaganda posters would look like.
Exactly.
The bandit who led an army.
And then as they leave, Ning says to Pema, wait. I'd like you to stay for the next meeting.
Okay.
Could you please grab Wosan and bring him in before we start?
Sure. Boss.
Thank you.
Tentatively. And I run and get Wosan.
Now, is this the meeting with Wosan as well as your commanders, or you're not even going to have that meeting with them?
It's going to be Wosan and the commanders who seem to be happy to be in this village.
Cool. Okay. So you gather Wosan and your commanders at in the Skywell, and he says, "So are you you're going to be taking everybody and moving on?"
And Nig ignores him. She makes eye contact, but clearly has decided not to respond to it. And looks to Pema, and then looks at the other lieutenants, and says, I have noticed your actions, and I see that you are invested in the security and safety of these people. Is that a true statement?
Right. Of course.
I see. If you were stationed here, would that be an acceptable station?
For you, Commander, anything.
I see.
Anything for you.
And she, like, watches them all. She, like, tries to analyze kind of, like, where their hearts are. And she looks to Wosan. And then she looks to the commanders and says, You all are relieved of your duties. You can leave now.
Wait.
Your actions are your own. The military gear provisioned to you are your severance. Go in peace.
They're kind of in shock. The soldiers, have long terms of service. Commander, what will we do? What about our retirement?
You can go back to Shah. You can tell them that I relieved you. You can give them my name. I gave authority for this, and I will back that up. Or you can stay here. You can do whatever you want with your lives. Whatever makes you happy.
They kind of look to Wosan, who kind of looks to you and says, will the capital be paying for their land here?
I don't know. I just don't, sir. But I'm sure if some able-bodied warriors were interested in staying here to keep you and your people safe, I'm sure you could make it work.
Well,